All right, so let's talk about solving quadratic equations by completing the square. There are 4 steps to the process. First, you're going to isolate quadratic and linear terms together, meaning the x squared and the x terms need to be on the same side, constant on the other. Then we're going to complete the square, as we talked about in class. But when we add that constant to make it a perfect square trinomial, we're going to add that constant to both sides of an equation to keep it balanced. Then we're going to write the perfect square trinomial that results in the quantity squared form, and then we're going to solve it using square roots. So let me walk you through this example. First, we're going to isolate the quadratic and linear terms together, which means we want the quadratic term and the linear term to be on the same side of the equation by themselves. So that means we're going to move the 14 to the other side. Now that we've done that, we're ready to complete the square. Remember, completing the square means we're going to add a constant to this thing in order to make it a perfect square trinomial. And remember, the pattern is that we take half of the x coefficient and square it. So that would be negative 4 squared. And you could write 16 there, and that would be fine. But since we have an equation here, not just an expression, we just added 16 to one side of the equation. So in order to keep the equation balanced, we need to add that to the other side as well. Now, that left-hand side is a perfect square trinomial, so it's going to factor into something squared. And the pattern is always going to be the number that's here is going to be the number that goes in the factored form. Now, on the other side, we have 2 numbers that can simply be added together. That's negative 14 plus 16, so that gives you positive 2. And now this looks like the square root equations that we were solving last time. So I have a quantity squared. I'm going to undo it by taking the square root of both sides. The square root of x minus 4 quantity squared is x minus 4, as long as I remember to put a plus or minus on the other side. And then to get x by itself, I'm going to add 4 to both sides. Now, if I were looking for the exact form, I would try to make sure that square root is simplified as much as it possibly can be, and it is. If I were looking for decimal approximation, I would plug this into my calculator and get those decimals back. But that's the process of solving by completing the square.